Hey again, folks. International Master David Pruce with Chess.com. And today I am actually going to show you a really sweet game that I played myself back in 2001. This is the first game where I ever beat a Grandmaster by my own count, because in the previous round I beat a Grandmaster so badly I don't count it. Alright, so here it is. I'm black, and it is a variation of the Catalan opening, which I have had many, many times here. At the time, I'd played this opening a fair amount. So in this position, white plays not a good move, a3. That is too slow. The proper procedure for white in this position is to play b3 and put the bishop on b2, which is the best square for the bishop. Now, when white plays a3, I mean, he's planning to do the same thing, play b4 and bishop b2. Get the same position, but obviously the extra space with the pawn on b4 would be great for him to attack on the queen side, but he doesn't have time for it, actually, if black reacts energetically in the center. So we get some trades in the center, and black gets this isolated d-pawn, and white tries to blockade it, which is a classic strategy, but in this case it's better for white to just trade the knight on e5 and then bring his next knight to f3. That's really what he needs to do. So you'll see why. He played knight d4, and I developed the bishop. And the basic problem is that black is getting developed much faster than white, whose bishop is stuck in here. So bishop comes to g4, and now rook to c8 with tempo, bringing out a piece instead of saving the bishop. And now again, we don't save the bishop. We attack the knight on d4, and black is really like pushing quite an initiative just off of white being slightly behind in development. And so white tries to block off that bishop on the diagonal towards white's king, so the bishop retreats. Now the pawn on g4 is attacked twice, so it advances, and black moves the knight here. And here white could still defend his position if he moved his knight back to f1. He's going to lose this pawn, but black's going to lose this pawn. His bishop's not good, but overall it's an interesting position. Still totally playable. But he played knight f3, and this allows a very strong blow for black. Knight takes f2, king takes f2, knight g4 check, king to g1, and now queen to d6. So my opponent here calculated for a long time and realized that the attack coming was going to be unstoppable, so he played rook d4, sacking the rook to slow down black's attack. But I'm just going to show you the critical variation for this game would have been for him to play queen to b4, queen takes g3, and then queen to e1, right? Transferring his queen to stay on the black queen, try and get a queen trade and get to a advantageous ending for white. But in this position, the key move for black was to win by sacking the rook and the queen here. White can't take the queen because of double check, checkmate. And if white takes the rook, then we take back with the bishop check and then play bishop f2. And after the queen moves, black has knight to e3 check and then taking on g2. And the white king is going to be pursued across the board, and black's even ahead on material at this point. So that was the critical variation to justify the sack, was this rook takes e3 move. As so often happens in high-level games, my opponent saw it coming, and so he avoided it with rook d4. And so I took and brought my queen in anyway. So black's winning without too much trouble here, and the key is just to try and get these rooks involved in the action, because white does have two minor pieces, so you want to break open some files for your rooks before white manages to coordinate these pieces. So I broke through on e3, and I had to calculate that he couldn't trade queens here, as he tried to because of this move, queen h4 check. And here my opponent resigned because he realized that after he moves his king, I am planning to take the knight on d4. And he cannot capture the rook on c8, because I can block the back rank checkmate and give counter check to his king, winning his queen. And if he doesn't capture my rook, then I'm ahead a rook and 3 pawns against the bishop. So white resigned. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you around on Chess.com.